Y a quelqu'un qui appelle mon nom. Y a quelqu'un qui appelle mon nom. On travaille aujourd'hui, on travaille sous la pluie. On travaille au tabac, sti. Mes mains sont noires à cochon. Mes mains sont noires à cochon. 36 jours et 36 nuits. On travaille au tabac, sti. Oui, ma blonde, elle attend après moi. Oui, ma blonde, elle attend après moi. Je vais retourner avec beaucoup d'argent. On travaille au tabac, sti. Boat driver.
Mai uhe uhe ni ana kapuana uhe uhe kapo I kaulana kau I kanuku uhe uhe ni.
Alright, so after some thought and inspiration, here's another ruminations video. And if you've seen my playlist of Fun with Flag Facts and seen the one about the South African flag, the previous one before the one we all know, the 1928 to 1994. This actually, now this doesn't just cover any of my possible Afrikaans audience out there, but also it covers, I'm gonna cover three peoples, three nations, whatever, if you will. South Africa, Canada, and Hawaii. Even though that's technically America, but identity-wise, that's either here nor there, depending on who you ask and heritage and stuff. So this pertains to basically all of what these three nations in terms of flag history have in common: the Union flag or the Union Jack. Now, I always liked the even though the 1928 to 1994 South African flag is supposed to be seen, in modern times, and since Nelson Mandela got a say in politics and blah blah blah, that the Union Jack, there's like a third flag within the flag as well, I can't remember what that is. I think that's like representative of like, I suppose, nearby Namibia or just Southern Africa in general. But there's the orange Free State flag, or like Dutch, the original Netherlands flag with the Union Jack, and then the third one, which I think it represents like an updated Orange Free State thing, or represents Africa, Southern Africa, But to stop talking twaddle about that, what are your opinion? First, Afrikaners. What are your opinions on, say, the old flag? Do you miss the old flag? Or do you like the? How many of you actually are kind of neutral about the flag, and which one? How many of you about the current flag, and which one are you? And then those of you who think it sucks, basically, feel free to comment. And next, you Canucks out there, are you proud of the current flag? You have the maple leaf, which you've officially had since about 1960. It's amazing how modern the flag is. And I think it used to be, if I remember, I think it might be to do with the province or something, that I can't remember as a whole, but there's at least a Union Jack, pre 1960, and possibly a grizzly bear or something like that. But maybe it's speaking of Nelson Mandela, Mandela effect, which has nothing to do with Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela, played brilliantly by Idris Elba in the biographical film. So yeah, I mean, I think my take on it is that the flag I'm not Canadian, but I suppose in terms, I'm gonna go for a bit of tangent here, but due to some World War II stuff, it's possible that either my biological great granddad was either at least an Afrikaner or a Canadian, or an Italian prisoner of war, or whichever. That's what my uncle tells me anyway. The last one. But yeah, the flag. I think how I picture it, I would have. I think there used to be a flag where, again, one of the province things where it was an Inuit or an Indian and some like Acadians, like proto Louisianan Cajun people, basically shaking hands or something like that. So I'd have something like that, like maybe like a feathered spear type thing on one corner, some kind of hat, some kind of migrant worker hat or something like that, and then maybe a Union Jack, but coloured in the French kind of way, at least. I know they have similar colours throughout the French flag and some parts of the Union Jack, but yeah, more emphasis on the, I guess, orange or something. I get mixed up with flags sometimes, especially when they look similar. Like for example, Italy, and speaking of Italy, kind of by tangentially, Ireland and Italy's flag look very similar. And if you're slightly colourblind when it comes to orange and red, like I am, I get mixed up between them all the time. But Italy's dark is red, medium red, and Ireland, its last colour, similar with Italy's like a dark orange, like a medium dark orange. Might be to do with, maybe there's a connection. Maybe it's to do with like Catholicism to some degree. But yeah, all right. I'm going to finish up with Hawaiians, and this includes everyone in Hawaii. The ones, the descendants of the Hawaiians that have been there, been on the island longer than anyone else. Like kind of Polynesian types, related to, and this is like a fun fact thing, all related to like the Samoans and also the Maoris, all surprisingly related to each other, which is quite interesting. like in Moana. It kind of makes sense that one of the I've seen the trailer for Moana 2, and one of them has a vague, kind of posh sounding, I guess, sort of Kiwi New Zealand thing, which makes sense to me, actually. Even though this was probably like 3,000 years ago when no one talked English, but, you know, it's a Pixar film, so what? I'm overanalyzing it. But, yeah. Seeing as Hawaii is an American state, and I saved a playlist from someone where it was like different American state flags, and Hawaii's one has a Union Jack on it, and it's been that since, like that ever since. So what's your opinion on the Union Jack being left on your island's flag? You're not bothered? Do you like it? Do you want to make a change? For example, the New Zealanders a lot of New Zealanders have been wanting to change New Zealand's flag, replace the Union Jack with something else, and or similar to the Canada thing, keep it on there but put something else there other than the Southern Cross. But yeah, that was another Ruminations video for specifically for South Africans, Canadians, and that includes French Canadians, actually, because it's all one country, and Hawaiians. So yeah, I'll stop rambling on and upload this now.
Finidata.
Hey up, it's History Boy, and just sort of getting ready for a bath. Been a sort of, I don't know, flood barrier day, I like to call it. Not exactly a wall, but very little success out of want of trying and efforts and all that shite about applications, and I'm sure a lot of you out there, even worldwide, know that it's just like, yeah, for example, LinkedIn, that needs to sort shit out with the broken links. I'm sure I'm not the only one, obviously, that has the issue. I used to think it was a mobile thing, but I think I tried logging onto a desktop computer one time, and it just decides to break links. But let's get on with the subject of the matter. The inspiration for this video came from a YouGov survey I did about the EU and Brexit and Reform UK and all that crap. Before I get on with it, I actually used to sort of support Farage. I don't know. I'm on the fence about him. I'm still umming and ahhing of whether he'd be a good Prime Minister. I don't know. But Reform's very controversial. It's like how would I compare it? It says the honest, I guess some honest stuff. I mean, I follow politics from time to time. It's always Google News and stuff, and Yahoo News have a hard on for pushing, all that stuff. Like, it really, I mean, it does matter, but it's like, either show people for what they are, or just show people for what they are. None of this bloody either demonising and then ass kissing on the other side of the coin. It's like, come on, be honest. You know, maybe people will make better decisions if media corporations and newspapers and the like and so on and so forth didn't pussyfoot around for sensationalism. And but yeah, the survey I did, it was about the trade partnerships that the UK has, and used to have, the whole leaving the EU thing. I sort of agreed that it was a bad move. Majority, that's not an unpopular opinion, but there's another side. There's another side to this from my point of view. It's a pity that the UK didn't have stronger, trade unions and infrastructure built up before actually leaving. I'm not asked either way, but yeah. So yeah, I was a bit like, I'm going to say it again, on the fence about that too, or on the proverbial Berlin Wall if we're talking about the EU. But yeah, East and West Germany was a bad idea, I suppose. For example, I think actually Germany's economy is probably strong enough to not be part of the EU as well. It's in a lot of Scandi countries. Yeah, and this is probably maybe a bit weirdly controversial, but when I was doing the survey, I basically vouched that the UK should stay out of the EU. Build up its infrastructure somehow via to begin with, the former connections it had, all the Commonwealth stuff like with India and even China. Hong Kong and Shanghai was quite a good thing, business wise and infrastructure wise. If I'm using that term right, it's a bit overused, isn't it? But despite, and this, not to piss people off, but despite a lot of like urban India being a shithole, and the Medicare not being so good, for as far as I know, they've got a brilliant work ethic. They've got a good attitude to business, and the nod to the to the connections they had as a Commonwealth nation. Maybe independence was a bad idea, but that's another viewpoint for another, probably for another day. But yeah, and China, whether you agree with their attitudes and politics enough, they or not, they know a good investment when they see it. It seems like the EU and Brexit can't really decide on what's best for either party, organisation, or whatever. So yeah, basically, end of the and this is the stealth type end of this episode of Knights of the Debate Table. Yes, it's one of them. I kind of came up with it on sort of impulse. But yeah, any fellow blighters out there / Northern Irish people, dependencies and etc. Yeah, do you? Yeah, so there's sort of some options that I'm kind of mulling over a bit. from my attitudes on answering those YouGov surveys. Sorry if I'm stuttering a bit. It's been a bit of an annoying day, but you know, whinge and so on and so forth. Yeah. So the choice is build stronger connections with India and China as well. Not talking about like getting, you know, for example, Hong Kong back or whatever like that. That doesn't really matter anymore. But then, yeah, because then there was the option of, you know, on the survey, digressing a little bit, tiny bit. Yeah, back to the YouGov thing. There was a choice of join the EU again, partnering with the US, Saudi Arabia, which I said, to excuse my incoming French, fuck no to Saudi and the US. You know. So, and then there was the choice of India and China on some of the questions, and I picked for respectively, you know, for the similar questions, India and China. So yeah, that we should tap in more to the, well, you know, India's side, tap in more to the historical connections and the Commonwealth stuff and the trade stuff that goes with it, and then China, you know, for example, again, you know, their politics might be naff, and attitudes towards certain people's on their own doorstep is crap, but you can't deny that they were, you know, there's a reason why some people call them the Jews of the Far East. They know a good investment and a business deal when they say it, and they stick with it for, you know, in this case, for hundreds of years if they could. But yeah, so yeah, the choice being, what is it? Yeah, let's do the kind of lesser of two evils thing. It's evil-ish, not evil, but countries that get sort of a bad rap based on their economy and you know, systems and stuff like that. So yeah, what was it? India and China. Yeah, which would you rely as on the UK front, being on the world stage and all the trade union stuff? Who would you find it more beneficial to partner with, India or China? So I think from my point of view, I would personally partner with India. I would establish more, because the only kind of connection we still have to it, minus some trade stuff, because trade is universal, international, but apart from the whole Commonwealth thing, it hasn't really fared well in economy, you know, lifestyle wise in economy, I guess, for most of it, like the big. It's basically, you know, if you're poor in a city, you're poor, and if you're in a village, you're poor. And you have to basically be lucky to be born with a silver spoon in your mouth, even now. But they they get, weirdly enough, tons of infrastructure, their revenue through like tourism and trading products and stuff, but but with us and them, apart from the whole Commonwealth thing, it doesn't seem like there's many other important connections that we build with them. So yeah, my vote from my personal point of view would be to build stronger connections with India and use those. I'm not a politician, so I might be yammering and talking out my ass because I don't know political jargon. But yeah, establish stronger connections, business connections with India due to ties and historical ties and etc. And the revenue you get from, like I say, they trade with pretty much all of the rest of the world with certain products, like basically, my opinion would be build stronger connections with India. I keep repeating myself because I keep thinking too hard. It's a problem I'm working on. To quote The Exorcist 3, that we should build back up strong ties with India, and then before we can set out on our own with the cutting ties following the cutting ties of the EU and umming and ahhing about who to join. Basically I think fuck joining with the US, fuck joining with Saudi, China maybe, but they've commercially they've got their hooks into a lot of pretty much everything. Sort of similar with the US. Sadly, Canada wasn't a choice. Otherwise, I would have, unless there's enough ties with them so they'll help us out financially. God, that's a threatening thought, isn't it? Like Greece and Germany just before the Euro crap. But yeah, so basically, yeah, I'm just repeating it again for clarity. Build stronger connections with India or with China to help us build our trade unions, I guess, strength on the world stage. So yeah, if that made any sense, remember to like, subscribe, comment. Please do comment. It's called Knights of the Debate Table for a reason. And I'll see you in whatever next video I do. Ciao.
Finidata.
Hello, sirs and ladies, and welcome to another episode of Knights of the Debate Table. This one came from, well, it was inspired by an episode of Pointless, where there was a Eurovision type question. I can't remember the exact details, but just before we get started, because I'm going to use my usual method of, my comfortable go-to method of Converter app to put my voice under the video. Some of the flags will repeat, and for those of you who are savvy with flags and not so savvy, it's there's going to be Ireland, UK, New Zealand, Australia, Chile, Israel, Russia, Belarus, Turkey, Cyprus. What else was there? There was, I mean, you'll see them when you know, as you're watching the video, and you'll, you know, or you are seeing them, depending, you know, my favourite, you know, that old phrase from Doctor Who, timey-wimey. And there's, yeah, Vatican City and San Marino. Oh, and Chile as well. And, you know, some of those sound weird, you know, Australia, New Zealand, Chile. But this is about, like, who's in and who's out, and who do you think should remain in and should be out? Do you believe that any country should be excluded from Eurovision? For example, those of you out there, there's some stuff that I'm a bit on the fence with, as it were. So, yeah. So, for example, let's start with like a weird one. Now, they do have in Chile. Chile's part of Chile. Yeah, Chile or Chile. Yeah, Chile or Chile, you know, depending on which you prefer. They're not part of Eurovision itself, the original competition that's been going for decades, for donkey's years. But they do, for some reason, there is a Eurovision Latin America. Now, those of you out there, depending on my geographical audience, I'm not sure if I put you guys there, but I don't suppose it really matters, because I've had also some comments from I think people from countries I didn't put in my list, in my audience reach list. I think that's what it was when I was setting my actual content creator kind of profile up. But do you, yeah, those of you out there from Chile, and you know the surrounding areas like Bolivia and Peru, I suppose, as an example, to shout out to anyone from those weird and wonderful countries. Do you believe that? I mean, what are your views on Eurovision Latin America? Do you think it's pointless? Do you think it doesn't make sense? Do you like that it's come over to Central America? I myself, I'm gonna interject some of my viewpoints if I have some viewpoints. My viewpoint is that, I mean, it's kind of interesting that there's a Latin American version of Eurovision. I mean, and this is me they can't stand Eurovision, but the politics involved are sometimes a bit weird and frustrating and unusual and fascinating all at the same time. They're a real dichotomy and blend or whatever. But yeah, there's also part of me that thinks it's a bit pointless that there's their own I guess sub show in a technically not European place or whatever, if you get the gist. So yeah, let me know what you think about that. The next ones I'm gonna move on to are Australia and New Zealand. Now, Australia is part of Eurovision. It has been since 2015. They earned a permanent slot because they were so popular for some reason. But I understand that New Zealand isn't part of Eurovision. Now, this appeals to, of course, both Aussies and Kiwis. Do you believe that you should be part of Eurovision? Do you think it's a load of twaddle that you're there? Next one, and as for you Kiwis out there, those of you out there, seeing as your Australian cousins or half siblings, probably cousins more like, cousin brothers, as you know, some of my Pakistani mates say. Yeah. Hashtag hood slash casual racism. Not really. But yeah, do you believe that you should have the right to be enter contestants in Eurovision, for example? And how do you feel about, like, say, Tonga and Vanuatu and Tuvalu maybe being part of Eurovision? But that's a bit like as an extension thing. And maybe Eritrea, because they used to be an Australian territory, and so on and so forth. Maybe I didn't think of that. I didn't think of that while putting together the images that would make the bulk of the video. But yeah, how do you believe that you deserve a spot equal to Australia as like a rival, or for example? Now, going to move on to Russia. Russians out there, do you believe that? I'm using that terminology a lot. That starting point a lot. Do you think it's unfair that Russia, those out there, I mean, this is for anyone, but maybe Russians in particular. So, any possible Russians watching, any Belarusians watching, any Ukrainians watching? Do you think that it's unfair that Russia, and this goes for Israel as well because of what's been kind of on in the news for the past several years, do you think it's unfair that Russia and Israel, and I think Belarus isn't part of it. Yeah, Ukraine is, but Belarus, Russia aren't, and there's the whole Israel thing as well. Do you think that it's unfair that Russia, Belarus, and Israel have been excluded from Eurovision? Because this is not that I really care that much about Eurovision, but the politics, like I say, are quite fascinating and in a really annoying way, kind of not unlike the Olympics. I think the political side of it, when you're doing a contest, should They should stay out of it. I think just because a leader is being a dickhead, for example, or a certain faction are being a dickhead, being dickheads, then I think it doesn't matter. It's like when the Soviet Union got excluded from the Olympics way back when. I think maybe East Germany did, or maybe they didn't. Maybe there's some hypocrisy there. But I think it's stupid. It's fascinatingly stupid. So yeah, do you think it's unfair in that regard that Russia and blah 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 blah, you know, that I mentioned, yeah, you know, that they're being excluded, and also Israel. Do you think it's silly that if you do go back in, do you think it's silly that you're in Eurovision anyway? Because that's sort of like getting to my next point with Turkey, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But I think I can't remember if Turkey are in or out. But this applies to Cypriots as well. Do you believe that? What are your feelings on being? Oh yeah, they are in. Yeah, Turkey are in Eurovision. What is your stance at Cypriots? You know, Greeks and Turk Cypriots. What are your stances on being in Eurovision alongside Turkey, for example? And also Greece, and also Britain, because it's quite British. But yeah, what are your stances of being kind of Eurovision rivals with those three? Yeah, the whole Cypriots. How do you feel about, you know, being fellow contestants with people that have been, and this is a kind of political debate too, in a way. You know, this is what happens on, you know, Leader History Boy every now and again, because it's just like that. You know, society, civilization, any kind of national thing, such as, well, Eurovision, yeah. So yeah, how do you Turk Cypriots and Greek Cypriots, respectively, how do you feel about being fellow contestants with, I suppose, in different eras and now, and so on and so forth? You know, feel free to educate me more on what's happening in Cyprus, for example. It's been happening in Cyprus over decades and decades. You know, how do you feel about sharing, being contestants alongside the UK and Turkey? And yeah, following on from the UK thing, I meant to say that after Turkey. How do you? Yeah, the Irish people. How do you feel? What are your attitudes towards Eurovision? I mean, leaving aside, you know, great presenters that you lot have given us, such as you know, Graham Norton. I mean, I sort of like Graham Norton. I mean, he's grown on me a little bit, but no one will ever top Terry Wogan, ever. I'm sorry. He's like an eccentric, or eccentric, whatever the pronunciation is, kind of great uncle to me. I was greatly saddened at the news of his passing. And this was like when I was just starting high school, maybe a bit earlier. So it's quite a long time ago. God, I sound old. So yeah, Irish people, what are your stances on Eurovision? And so UK as well. Yeah, leaving my fellow countrymen out, in a way. But yeah, that's a debate for another day, for example. You know, how people feel about identity and all that bonkum. So yeah, what are your feelings about Eurovision? And yeah, and also the Papal States too, Vatican City and San Marino. Do you feel that you should? Not wrong, but do you believe that it doesn't really make sense based on popularity alone? It is Eurovision after all, but then you have Turkey. Like Turks, you know? There's the whole Turkish identity thing too, and I think it's not too dissimilar from the British identity in the way that it's like there's people that just feel like they're more of a thing or they're their own thing. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments. And this is done. So yeah, to leave off, probably quite fittingly, even though this flag, this nation, was the second is the second image in the video. Like I say, they're kind of in no particular order. Well, kind of, sort of associated countries or ones that were associated with each other or neighbours. To an extent, like, you know, Australia, New Zealand, and Great Britain and Ireland, and countries that had history with each other, etc., and blah 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 blah. You know, like Turkey and Cyprus and Belarus. You know, in this video. Yeah. So to leave off. Yeah. Fellow blighters. How do you feel about being in Eurovision? Do you think we, as fellow countrymen, I guess, yeah, we're a country, fuck it. It's, you know, whether you feel, you know, English, Scottish, Welsh, Northern Irish, Manx, Gurney, Jerry, you know, Jersey. I can always forget how to pronounce that. Sark. I don't know what the singular for someone from Sark is. For example, yeah. How do we all feel? As in we, as in you, my particular lighter audience. How do you feel being in Eurovision? Do you think we should just leave because of the European Union? Do you think it doesn't matter, seeing as the whole, there was, you know, you can compare it with the whole Eurovision Latin America, Chile having its own thing. I think Chile, like Australia, entered in a year and then became popular. But the difference is Australia actually are part of Eurovision, whereas Chile became part of its, you know, its Central American spin-off show, which is the exact same thing in all but location. You know, for example, Eurovision is generally takes place, or at least in this year, it'll take place in Austria. I'm not sure if it does. I'm not really up on it. I'm not a fan, but I think it gave me. But yeah, I've had some inspiration around a subject that, at face value, to me is quite boring and overhyped. But the political side of it, it's fascinating to ponder in its way. Do you think, you know, those of you, this is the point of the debate table thing, you know, those of you that don't give a toss, those of you who think you shouldn't be in it, a country shouldn't be in it, or do you think just politics in general should just stay out of it? Or do you think there are some countries such as Australia and Chile that it doesn't really that well, especially Australia specifically. Do you think it's wrong? I didn't ask. Oh, sake.